Hi there, everyone on the Mindvalley Network. I'm so excited to have you here today. So I'm actually here in my kitchen, which is symbolic because we've been cooking up something really amazing. As you know, we just finished the Mindvalley Summit. Mark Cuban opened the floor. We had 200,000 of you register, and so many people wrote to me after the summit to say what a life-transforming decision it was. Now, obviously, we can't make all the content from the summit available because people paid for that content. But there were a couple of talks that were so powerful. Now, the first one is with Mark Cuban. Who is Mark Cuban? Well, he is one of the most legendary entrepreneurs in the United States. He's a man with a beautiful heart, and he's a man that I really respect because of how he makes you just see the world in a different way, build great businesses, leave an impact on the world, all with kindness. You have to watch this session if you get a chance because you're going to learn so much from Mark. So I want to invite you to tune in. It's about 45 minutes and learn from Mark Cuban. Here is our presentation with Mark Cuban.
Yeah. Another level, we ain't never settle now. Level up, watch me level up, watch me, yeah.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Mindvalley Summit. I'm so excited about our guest today, a guest that needs no introduction, Mr. Mark Cuban. Mark, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing good, Mark, and I'm so really excited to have you here. Now, Mark, most people who are watching today, there are 15,000 people watching live on Zoom. First, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Nice to hear that. And like I said, you're a man who needs no introduction, but there is a story I want to share about you because I think it illustrates something about you that many people may not know. And it's how we basically got you to participate in this summit. So it turned out, and I'm going to tell the story, it turned out that there is a woman who works here for Mindvalley. Her name is Jeanette. Jeanette used to live in Texas, and she happened to be a member of the same gym that Mark was in way back in 2006. So Jeanette was in the gym working out, and she would see Mark, and she said Mark was always the friendliest guy. He would go and he would greet everyone. He was super open and would smile with everyone. And this was at the point where Mark had sold a company for over $5 billion to Yahoo. He was one of the richest, most successful men in America, yet he was this regular guy at the gym. So one day, Jeanette was working out, and I can't remember the exact protocol she was doing, but Mark came up to teach her how to work out properly. She said they spent 10 minutes, and that was it. And 16 years later, somehow she had Mark's email. When the summit was happening, she decided a shot in the dark, she'll just message Mark and say, hey, this is Jeanette. We met in the gym in Texas in 2006. You were super gracious and you helped me out with my workout technique. And I have this summit I'm helping produce. Would you speak? And Mark said yes. And I cannot think of a greater thing about you, Mark, in terms of how down to earth you are, how kind you are, and how much you give. So really a great pleasure to have you here. Please give a big round of applause to Mark. Mark, what is before we begin, we have a special gift for you, but first I want to ask you an opening question. What are you most excited about in the world today? What is the project that's really giving you goosebumps?
You know, I get excited about crypto assets and these things called smart contracts and blockchains. I just think they're game changers for developing businesses and developing new applications. And I'm not talking about speculating in Bitcoin versus Ethereum, but actually developing applications for personalized finance, for buying and selling digital assets. There's just so many applications that are going to change because of the way that blockchains and smart contracts together allow businesses to be developed much more efficiently.
That's beautiful. Now, I know this may seem like a slightly odd question, but is crypto something that you would recommend people get into right now, or do you think we need to wait till the next big wave?
Well, again, there's two things. Am I recommending people speculate, go buy lots of Bitcoin because it's going to do? No. I'm not saying it's a bad investment. I own some. I own some Ethereum. I own others. I've done my homework and my research, but it's very volatile and it's very speculative. But on the development side, you know, I can give you an analogy. Back in 1995, right at the early days of the internet, I looked at the internet and I said, wow, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. And my partner, one of my good friends, Todd Wagner, came to me and he's like, you're a tech geek, Mark. There's got to be a way we can use this new internet thing to be able to listen to Indiana basketball, which is where I went to college, Indiana University, down in Texas. Because back in 1995, you couldn't just turn on, there was no internet streaming. And so I said, you know what, let me see if we can figure out how to use the internet to listen to audio and then eventually video. And we started a company called AudioNet, and it was the very first streaming company. And back in the early days of the internet, not everybody realized its power. And I remember telling people, you don't understand this internet thing. With our company AudioNet, you're going to be able to listen and watch anything, anywhere, anytime around the world. And they're like, you're crazy. What a waste of time. I'm just going to turn on my TV or radio. And I'm like, you don't get it. And they're like, no, Mark, you don't get it. I feel the same way about smart contracts and blockchain right now. And so if you're looking, if I were starting all over again and it was like 1995, and just like I got into the internet and found, back then we called it internet broadcasting, I would be looking at developing applications using this programming language called Solidity, which is a lot like JavaScript, and developing applications for it.
Beautiful. I love that you shared that with us. Just to give the people who are watching some context, Mark was born in 1958. In 1998, that's when his company, Broadcast.com, went public. And it was such a successful listing. It was the highest day one price jump of any public company. Mark went on to sell Broadcast.com a few years later to Yahoo for close to $5.5 billion. And we'll go more into that story next. But first, Mark, I wanted to do something interesting. So I put out a competition on Instagram to ask people to write poetry about you. I wanted to introduce you with a poem. So we got a bunch, and the rule was it had to put a smile on your face. So I'd love to bring up the first candidate for our poetry for Mark Cuban. Please play the video.
Hi, Vishen. Dan, the Chop Saver guy here, and I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to introduce Mark Cuban with a poem. But for me, the question was, which one do I choose? A sonnet, a haiku perhaps. But since you asked for something funny, I'm going to read a limerick. There once was a Cuban named Mark. He's known as the wealthiest shark. The web brought him fame, but the Mavs are his game. Hope we meet with this shot in the dark. Were I lucky enough to meet you, Hoosier is how I would greet you. My son is a Pilam, so proud of him I am. Be like Mark, and life never will cheat you. Now the point of this whole production was to give Mark a fine introduction. Mark Cuban is great, his words we await. If we're smart, we will heed his instruction. And thank you to Almighty Vishen for letting us try some shark fishing. With poems and rhymes, we're dropping some dimes. Make 'em smile. That was really our mission.
Mark, I hope you...
It's literally the best thing ever. You got to send me a copy of that, because that is the best thing anybody has ever given me ever for one of these interviews. Crazy.
Awesome. I'm so glad okay, awesome. We put, Dan put a smile on Mark's face. Now, Mark, we're not done yet. A lot of people submitted haikus on Instagram. We got like maybe around 30, 40 pieces of poetry. Now, this is from Abhilasha in India. So I'm going to attempt to rap this out. Okay, but I need some assistance, so I'm going to bring two musicians on stage. Ronan, who is a fitness instructor here at Mindvalley and the creator of our fasting and our 10X muscle building programs. And then my son, Hayden, who is learning to play the saxophone. So Mark, this is not going to be a work of art, but again, like I said, the job is...
Professional stuff, come on, this is professional. This is professional.
Okay, so Hayden is Estonian, Ronan is Brazilian. I'm just saying that so you guys understand the accent. You guys ready?
Ready.
Hayden, you want to do like a practice sound for us? All right, let's get started, okay? This is from Abhilash Shah _24 from India. Do we dare an introduction for the man of the hour? If money is a game, then business is his power. Not to win to lose, but to leave a mark behind. You can read his book to see the strength of his mind. Conviction on his face and vision in his sight. Even with all that, he's mushy on inside. He's a family man with 2 daughters and a son. He loves his wife, and he probably calls her hun. He's the one you are waiting for. It's none other than Mark Cuban.
Okay, it's the saxophone that made it. I got to just say, the saxophone was everything.
Okay, Mark, you're gonna choose. You're gonna choose the best, and the winner's actually getting an iPad, okay? So now we come to the next one, and this is from Atama27 on Instagram, ATAMAR 27. You can follow her on Instagram, okay? You guys ready?
Ready?
All right, let's do this. It's time to introduce a man that won't lose. Mark is his name, and he's always on the game. He's not the Facebook guy, but Cuban internet story is not a lie. Starting with micro solutions, ended by buying a jet without a confusion. And when broadcasting came along, he never doubled to sing his song. I'm the luckiest man in the world, becoming a passionate owner at the basketball. Married and happy with 3 children, he was waiting for the Mavericks thriving. Winning the NBA's 2011 championship, completed his dream like a kingship. But don't forget about shark teeth. You know, never know where he's gonna be. An unstoppable man with many ideas and money in his hand. And now, thank you guys, and now...
Are you rapping?
Was that rapping? I have no idea. I don't know what to call this musical style.
It didn't really seem like it.
It's more what?
Poetry with pauses.
So Hayden says it doesn't sound like rap. It's more poetry with pauses. Thank you,
That
critic.
sounds good.
Jesus, my son just like dished me in front of 15,000 people. Okay, Mark, which one would you choose for the iPad? And I hope that put a smile on your face.
It definitely put a smile on my face. Hayden, you're awesome, but I got to go with Dan, number 1.
Okay.
That's what all the really cool stuff, and that surprised me. So that goes to
Awesome.
Dan.
So thank you, Hayden. Thank you, Ronan. And Dan, congratulations, you win the iPad. All right, thanks, guys. So Mark, we're so excited to have you here on Mindvalley. And what I love about you is the way your mind thinks. It's fast, and it's interesting. I was watching an interview with you on YouTube yesterday. And in the interview, they asked you, what do you think of raising the minimum wage? And I thought, okay, he's a billionaire. He probably employs thousands of people. I'd love to see what he says. And I'd love for you to share your answer and your why, because it was fascinating.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact interview, but I'm all for raising the minimum wage, because the stronger the community around your business, the more vibrant, the more economically the more economically capable they are, the better your business is going to be. You know, when your customers have more money, then I think a whole community really shines. And that may be counterintuitive, and it may be difficult. You know, some small businesses think, well, my costs are going up. Maybe they go up a little bit, but what you also realize is that when your employees make more than a living wage, then they're not going to need government assistance. And to me, as an entrepreneur, the idea of one of my employees needing government assistance really makes me upset. And so I've gone through my businesses that I operate and made sure everybody made at least $15 an hour. And that was several years ago. And I strongly encourage all entrepreneurs to do the same. And also, I'll add that, you know, for entrepreneurs, people who run their own companies, I've always given stock to all my employees, because if you want income inequality to be reduced. You people who are just making, $15 an hour and trying to live their lives, if they don't have any appreciable assets, it's really hard to improve your financial position. You need to have assets, whatever they may be, stock in a private company, anything that can grow in value. And so, one, paying someone $15 an hour, I think, is the minimum wage. Two, you should always try to share stock with your employees. Three, it's great for your community because, the more vibrant the community, the better businesses can do. And four, I mean, do you really want to, can you really take pride in your own business if the employees that you have, the people that do the work for you, don't have enough financial wherewithal to avoid government assistance? And to me, I mean, no entrepreneur should say yes to that. So that's a great question. Thank you for
I
that.
love that, Mark. Thank you so much for answering it that way. I think so many of us wonder, well, how would a billionaire see this? So let's come on to the next question. There is a really interesting thing in how you speak up about global issues. And at one point, you kind of implied to Andrew Yang, I believe in a Twitter conversation, that you were thinking about running for president, and then you decided not to run. Is it okay if I ask you why? What made you not run?
Typically, I prefer to be an entrepreneur, not a politician, and I just was not a fan of Donald Trump, when he ran for president, and that got me more active. And then, after he lost the election, now we have Joe Biden. There really was no reason for me to stay involved in politics. And then on top of that, I have three kids, 11, 14, and 17, and they were younger at the time when I was considering it. And the way politics is right now, I just didn't want to put them through all the grief or put my family through all the grief. And on top of that, we had a family vote. Should I run for president? And I lost 4-1.
I love that. I love that. I really love, I love the way your heart shows in so many of these interviews and the books I've read about you and the YouTube videos I've watched. But I also notice that you seem to have a gift for inspiring and transforming other people. I mean, you took the Dallas Mavericks and you completely transformed that team. And I remember watching a video in the past 1 week as I was researching you, and it was an entire stadium. The Dallas Mavericks had just won a big match, and an entire stadium erupted in the words, "Thank you, Mark." Yeah. Like, how often do you see that? Now, I'd love to know, because I'm an educator as well. My job is to inspire, help people grow. What did you do to transform the Mavericks into a winning team?
I recognized that I had a great player named Dirk Nowitzki, and I'd never traded him and kept on trying. Sometimes it's not about me. It's not about the entrepreneur. You've got to realize that in order to have a successful team, you've got to be very self-aware and know what you can and can't do and know who your strongest assets are. In the case of a basketball team, an NBA team, and you can see it over which shoulder there? My other shoulder. You can see the trophy. Let me squeeze out of the way. The championship trophy, sorry. And so recognizing when you have greatness that works for you or is your partner, that to let them be great. I think sometimes entrepreneurs try to get in the way and make it about themselves. And, I had greatness in my midst and trying to surround him with more talent. And that's the same thing I try to do with all my companies.
Amazing. I love that answer. So what can people do? The average person who wants to do something great in the world. If you had to give advice to someone who was kind of stuck in a rut or blocked in their career and their entrepreneurship journey, how would one move towards greatness?
What I tell people is everybody's got something inside of them that's great. The hard part is finding it, and we get things we're passionate about, but often the things we're passionate about are not the things we can be great at. And so you have to try different things. But then we get on with our lives and we find, we have bills, we have a house we have to pay for, we have a car we have to pay for, and we get stuck in that position. And when I've been in that position and when others, and I talk to have been in that position, I just tell them to be great at your job. It's so easy to get down, I don't like my boss, I'm so sick of this. But what I've learned and as an employee and people working for me, when you really work hard to be great at something and be the best at something, it's always fun to be the best. when you're great at something, it always feels good to be great. And nobody quits things that they're great at. And I think that's the hardest thing to overcome, because the reality of life is you can't just always quit your job. You can't just always, go in and say, give me the raise or give me the promotion or I'm out of here, I quit. And so when you're stuck, you've got to find it within yourself to say, okay, this is where I am. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be great. Because trying not to be here or not feeling good is not working. It's just creating too much stress. But if I really go for it, maybe I can be great at it. And if it's not the right place, if you're great at your job, typically other companies find out, or it creates an opportunity for you to be an entrepreneur. So, try as many things as you can when you're young or younger, or, have the opportunity to, not stuck for financial reasons or other reasons. Try to find the thing you can be great at. And if you can find that thing, be great at it. And if you don't know what that is and you're at a job and you can't leave, then be great where you're at, because nobody quits anything they're great at. People love to be around people that are great at things, and your joy level just goes up.
Mark, I love that. Now, we're going to do something here where the 15,000 people who are watching you right now, I'm going to ask you all to look at the Q&A column on Zoom and to post a question. Now, you can ask a question to Mark, or you can vote up someone else's question. And here's the thing. We're going to bring up 2 to 3 people live as a panelist for you to interview Mark. And then we're going to give you that video so you can share it on your Instagram. Okay, so as the questions are rolling in, Mark, I want to go with the next follow-up question. You once said that you went 7 years working hard without a holiday. I'd love to know, where does hard work come in terms of greatness? And would you still advocate that advice if we think about mental health and well-being?
When I was 23, I got fired from my job and decided I was a lousy employee, and started a company called Micro Solutions. And I didn't know that I liked technology. I just talked about finding something that you can be great at and then trying to be great at it. I didn't know that I liked technology until I got a job in it. And then I got fired, and I started Micro Solutions, and I was terrified, literally, starting this company, because I was sleeping on the floor. I had 5 roommates in a 3-bedroom apartment. I could barely pay my rent. And so I had no choice but to make this work. And when you're in that mindset and you have that fear that any minute now it could go away, you worked hard. But the good news is I really liked what I did. And I never felt like, oh, I'm missing out. My buddies would go to Cancun. I'm in my 20s, I still had fun, but my buddies would go to Cancun or here or there, and I couldn't go with them. But every step of the way, I felt myself making progress. I felt myself learning more. I felt myself becoming more and more excited about the company. And so I didn't feel like I was missing something. I felt like I was gaining more every day. And that by taking a vacation, it wasn't about, getting, mental rest or, recalibrating, because the way I work is, even if I would have gone, all I would have been thinking about was work. I'm the type of entrepreneur that when I'm doing a company, I dream about it. I wake up and take notes. I wake up and send emails, and because it consumes me. And so, I don't feel like I missed anything. I felt like my mental health was okay with it. But everybody's got to decide for themselves, because a lot of folks need to recharge. Maybe if I had done the same thing in my 40s, it would have been a completely different approach. Because I didn't have a family to worry about. And, I was fortunate. My goal always was to try to be independently wealthy before I had a family, so that I could spend time with my family. And I gave up some things along the way, but I think it worked out okay.
That's beautiful. Because I remember seeing you in an interview, and somebody asked you, how do you spend your day? And I loved your answer. You said, I'm a billionaire. I spend my day, any damn way I want. Love that. So I want to ask you this question on the theme of mental health, okay? So you said this in one of your interviews. In order to stay focused and make the most of his talents, sorry, this wasn't an article about you, he zeroes in on the urgent. Mark said, with my investments, I want the bad news first by email, and if it's bad, I'll jump on that. He says, for the good, well, that's what I expect. That's why I invest in you. I don't spend time on the good news because there's nothing to fix. Okay, so if you are spending time on the bad news, how do you keep your happiness levels, your mental well-being soaring because you have all of this bad news and urgency coming to you? How do you stay balanced?
Because when you procrastinate on those things, the stagnating issues don't go away, right? You know, there's two types of stress: the stress of fixing something, or the stress of knowing that you have to fix something and it's just looming there and you haven't gotten to it yet. The looming stress is far, far, far worse than the stress of getting through things, because that's what I do. You know, I've tried to be good at business, and sometimes I am good at business, and so I feel confident that I can fix the problems. But if I don't get through them and there's just looming and waiting there for me to do, and I'm procrastinating, then they build up, and that's even worse. And so getting it out of the way, and plus when you get it out of the way and you've done it quickly, it feels good. It feels really good to get it done. And so, you know, that's always been my attitude towards it.
That's good. It goes back to feeling good, right? So I want to ask you a question. I asked Elon Musk. I want to see how your answers compare. If we were to take you, Mark, and put you in a blender and blend you and create a cologne, the Mark Cuban, right? And this cologne would bless the wearer with whatever is the ultimate quality of Mark Cuban. What would that quality be?
Oh my goodness, what a question. A thirst for knowledge, just always wanting to learn. I love to learn. When I pick up new tidbits, when I pick up things, it's like a ball of yarn. When you start to create a ball of yarn, it's all messy, right? Because you got to wind it first and it's loose. And then as you start to add more and more knowledge to your own personal ball of yarn, it gets bigger and more solid and more powerful. And knowledge is the same way. It's hard at the beginning within a particular industry or topic or job to start picking up that knowledge. But each and every day that you add something, that knowledge gets stronger and more powerful, and you get more capable and you get more confident. And so every day I'm trying to add knowledge. And for me, I was always, in all my businesses, I was always the youngest. I'd walk in and people are like, "Where's your boss?" Or "Who are you here representing?" Or "Who's going to walk through that door?" Now it's the opposite. And there's all these young guns trying to kick my butt. And so if I'm not on top of things, they will kick my butt, but it ain't going to happen and it won't happen, because I love to stay ahead and I love to learn. And so when you take that, you'll become a learner.
What were some of the key ideas, philosophies, insights you gained growing up that led to who you are today?
That my dad did upholstery on cars, my mom did odd jobs, and they always, made me aware that I was going to have to figure it out for myself. They didn't go to college, they didn't have any type of business background. And so they told me I had to figure out myself, and they weren't lying. And so, that was the approach that they instilled in me, and what I've always, the approach I've always taken. And like I said about learning, right, that started to come from them when I was a teenager, and, I started reading books about everything and anything related to business as I could. I dropped out of high school so I could go to college, because my high school wouldn't let me take a senior year business class when I was a junior. And then I get to Indiana University, and my freshman year, I sneak into MBA classes because I just wanted to challenge myself and really just learn. And, that all those things gave me confidence. And that's really what my parents instilled in me, that if you're able to learn, you can build your confidence. And when you're knowledgeable and confident and you can sell, anything is possible.
Knowledgeable and confident, and you can sell, anything is possible. I love that. Was there a business book or a set of books that really inspired you growing up?
Yeah. I mean, if you looked around, there's so many books here. All of them added something. I think when I was young, I liked to read Ayn Rand simply because of the characters, not the political philosophy or anything like that, but more, the Howard Rourke's, the John Galts of the world. I kind of saw myself as a Howard Rourke, that I would have my own skills and I wouldn't be dependent on anybody else. And if people didn't believe in me, that was okay, because I was going to do the work to believe in myself. And then that really motivated me. Then I would read a lot of business biographies. I always looked up to Ted Turner and read every book I could about him. And really to this day, I just, again, just try to read and I continue to be inspired. It's not just being a kid, it's always. I'm still a kid. I haven't done my best work yet. And I want to keep on being inspired and I want to keep on having being excited by new ideas and being inspired to go out and do things. And all the time. That's why I like Elon. Elon does things and it makes me think, why didn't I think of that? And get really mad at myself and say, okay, you go out and do something, Mark. And you go out and now in my case more, you go out and help some entrepreneurs. You go do more deals on Shark Tank. And that to me, it's a lifetime thing.
I love that. I love that. Ted Turner's book was a really great book. I went to school in Michigan, and most of my education came from reading autobiographies. And Ted Turner's book was one of the books I read back in 1998. Amazing book. Interestingly enough, you mentioned Elon. When I asked him that blender question, his answer was tolerance for pain. I thought your answer, thirst for knowledge, was just a lot nicer. It's more like what we really want to hear. Speaking of knowledge, knowing everything you know right now, if you could help upgrade the education system, especially the college education system, what changes would you make?
Oh my goodness. Well, the first issue was cost. Without cost, you don't have accessibility. And I would put limits on the amount of money that people can borrow to go to college because in doing so, at least with federal guarantees, how much you can borrow and have that money guaranteed by the government or within their programs. And the reason for that is because of all that easy borrowing, colleges have been able to increase their tuition and room and board and fees costs, 10 times the level of inflation. I don't know the exact numbers, but by doing that, it makes the colleges become more efficient in how they run their businesses because right now there's no reason for them to be efficient. They just know that they can just keep on raising tuition and kids keep on coming. And so, or at least they had up until the last year or so with the pandemic. And so that's number one. I can go down a long list. There's too many administrators. There's too many other things. And then probably number two, if we are going to have free colleges, I do believe in free community colleges. I also think in terms of free 4-year public universities, I would approach it differently than just allowing every public university to be free like some people have proposed. I would have in each region, I would have all the public universities bid for a 5 or 10 year period to be the free university in that region. And what that would do is, one, lower the cost for the government and taxpayers in order to get kids in school. And two, it would make every other college in that region compete with the free college. And that would make everybody more efficient and more effective and less costly, obviously. And so that's kind of the top of my head approach that I would take.
That's really cool. I love those ideas. So now we come to the time. We have around 17 minutes left, and we are now going to bring up some questions from the audience. So I want us to bring up our first guest, Nakshatra Sayan. Nakshatra, I hope you have your webcam ready and your mic ready because you're about to come on live with Mark Cuban to ask your question. Let's bring up Nakshatra.
Yes, it's ready. Thank you so much, Vishen, for doing this. So my question to Mark, okay, I'm super excited about this. What is it about life that inspires you even today? You have achieved almost everything that a common person dreams of, right? But what is it that thought with you wake up with? And what is it about life that inspires you even today? Yeah, that is my question. Thank you.
One word, dad. Hearing the word dad is probably what makes my heart flitter, my body tingle every time one of my kids says it. And they inspire me every day. I hate to compare your children to a business, but that's my biggest entrepreneurial job right now. Raising them so that they can enjoy their lives and blaze their own path, and just because of all the things that I have or could ever accomplish, they're my greatest accomplishment, and I want them to have everything and more.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer, Mike.
Thank you so much, Vishen.
And thank you, Nakshatra, for your question. We're now next going to go to Nicole Royas. Nicole, you can turn on your webcam and join us on screen.
See, I'm glad this happens to other people, not just me.
I'm going to read out Nicole's question. Nicole, if you're still getting set up, we'll bring you up so you can say hi to Mark. But Nicole's question was, Mark, how does an entrepreneur like yourself keep balance in your life?
Really depends where you are in your life cycle. You know, are you 22 years old, just starting up, at which point there is no balance? Do you have kids, in which point, your family, at which point you have to have balance? And so, you know, I'm very blessed. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So I'm able to set my schedule so that, you know, the important things, the bad news first things, I can schedule, but every other minute I try to gear towards my family. If I were in a position where I don't have those options, then I would make sure to really get my work done as quickly as possible, but always schedule my family in there as well. Schedule my mental well-being, my calm time, my nap time, whatever you need to do to recharge yourself and refocus yourself, your learning time. Schedule them so they're on your calendar, so you don't procrastinate, so you don't, you know, skip them. And you know, if you take the approach where a business-like approach, at least that's always worked for me. If you just think you're just going to get it done, that rarely happens, because that probably means you're a procrastinator and you're going to skip it. So having it all scheduled makes it a lot better.
I love that. I love that. Now, Nicole happens to be on screen with us. Hey, Nicole, nice to see you.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm like shaking.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you
beautiful
so much.
question. What did you think of Mark's answer?
Thank you. I think I really needed to hear that as a college student and trying as an independent college student, supporting myself through college. Sometimes I tend to lose myself in the work and lose my entrepreneurship ambitions in it all. So just hearing that is so reassuring. So thank you so much.
And Nicole, where in the world are you?
I am in Los Angeles, California.
Nice to meet you, Nicole.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nicole.
Mark, I love how passionate you are about fatherhood in addition to building a business. I wholeheartedly agree there. Like, I want my kids to see what I do. I want to support them, which is why I brought Hayden on to play the saxophone, because that's his thing right now. In your case, what are the biggest values that you instill in your children? What's most important to you?
Respecting everybody, being kind to everybody, being self-sufficient, and loving your family. Those are probably the biggest four things. You know, my greatest fear after their health is them being entitled jerks and thinking that they don't have to care for themselves or figure things out for themselves because of my financial circumstances. And I remind them I'm the one that's rich, not them, and that they're going to have to create their own goals and take their own journey. But if you like to learn, if you are kind, if you are respectful, and hopefully they see that in how I interact with people, then things will work out for them. And so far, so good. You know, my kids are pretty good. Knock on wood, the 11, 14, and 17, and my wife and I have been very fortunate so far.
You know, as a billionaire, your kids are obviously growing up with incredible wealth, with incredible access and privilege. How do you ensure that doesn't take away anything from them? Because so many great entrepreneurs came because they had to struggle. I mean, you were selling garbage bags as a young man at 12 years old to earn money. How do you ensure that your kids get that same drive, that same ambition?
I make them work. My dad told me, if you want something, I'm not going to just give you the money. You got to get a job and earn it. And I tell them the same thing. My son now used as we got him a gaming PC for school, and so he could play games on it. And he figured out that since he was 10 at the time, he wasn't old enough to get an allowance yet. He was going to use it to be an Ethereum miner. And now he makes $100 a month when he's not using his PC for school or gaming to mine. My oldest daughter now has a summer job. My middle daughter we haven't gotten her that job yet, but she'll get there soon. And so, having them work, having them take responsibility for themselves, not just giving them things. I'm not a parent. My wife's the same way, that we just bring home gifts for them all the time, or, they're upset about something, so let's buy them something to make them feel better. Not at all. Not at all. It's the exact opposite. It's like, okay, you want those shoes, those $200 shoes that, spend crazy money. All right, what are you going to do for me? Now, sometimes, where the benefit of wealth comes in is like with my middle daughter wanting a pair of Jordans. It's like, okay, you're going to have to read 4 books in order to get those. And they got to be 300 pages each. Ooh. And you're going to have to tell me about them. And, she did it. And so, trying to get them to realize that in order to gain something, you have to earn it.
I love that. I love that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be work. It could be motivation, such as getting them to read books rather than get hooked on computer games or iPad or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not that they're not hooked. They are. And it's not that they don't use the device a lot.
I have a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old. It happens. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. And you're not going to stop that. But, the other thing that I've learned, you and I grew up reading, and we got inspired by books. And I learned that my kids, really, particularly my 2 youngest, they learn and get inspired by videos, online videos, in the same way we use books. And I'll tell you a quick story. One day, my son asked me why I don't do royalty deals on Shark Tank. And he was 10 at the time. I'm like, royalty deals? Do you even know what a royalty is? He goes, yeah, that's when, there's a sale and you pay a percentage of the sale to somebody. I'm like, that's cool. And I'm like, I don't like to do them because it takes away gross margin dollars from the business. And I'm like, do you know what gross margin dollars are? And he's like, yeah, I do. It's the difference between the sales price and the cost. I'm like, how did you learn this stuff? He goes, I watch videos on YouTube. I'll watch some Shark Tank highlights. And if there's something I don't understand, I'll just look it up and watch another video. And it takes me just a few minutes. And I'm like, wow, maybe the problem wasn't him watching videos. Maybe the problem was me not realizing how much he can learn watching videos a lot faster than some of the ways I took. And so, yeah, we have to watch what how much he uses screen time and what he's using it for. But at the same time, parents have to be adaptive as well. Just because something worked for us in this new environment, we can't just immediately turn our backs to it. We have to be open-minded that things change, and they're always going to continue to change. And we have to adapt as much as we try to get our kids to do things the same way we used to do them.
Oh, I love it. I love that answer. That's really cool. My kids learn so much from YouTube that they are smarter than the average adult. Like, you can talk about anything, science, astronomy, and they just know, and they say it in a snotty little way, like, that's not true, Dad. Technically, that is not the carbohydrate content of cereal. It's crazy what kids learn from YouTube. So I wonder, we are parenting children who are the first generation to grow up with iPads and YouTube. It's going to be a very interesting future. Speaking of the future, what excites you about the future of humanity? And what scares you about where we are going as a species?
What scares me is my generation, and the generation just younger than me, the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, because they're still trying to hold on like it's, the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and it's not. What excites me is Gen Z. I mean, my kids, your kids, they just have a completely different viewpoint. I see it in hiring. I see it with players on the Dallas Mavericks. They're much more entrepreneurial. They're much more connected. They're much kinder. They're much savvier. It's crazy. Just millennials versus, younger millennials, and Gen Z versus older millennials, night and day. But the younger ones, just so different and so open-minded and so driven. That to me is exciting. It's eye-opening. They recognize the threat to our environment. They recognize, they look at things far more objectively, and, they'll say, well, no, just because it's been done that way doesn't make it the right way to do things. It's just so much savvier than older generations. And so, I really truly believe that we're in really good hands going forward with your kids and my kids and their peers. And, hopefully as they age, they'll knock some sense into their parents and grandparents.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful how, as a species, we're getting wiser, we're getting more whole, we're getting more unified. Now, you see so many brilliant kids, entrepreneurs come and pitch to you at Shark Tank? You've heard so many ideas. You've invested in around 80 or so, rumor has it. But what are the qualities that you look for when an entrepreneur, I'm not talking about the idea, I'm talking about the entrepreneur. What are the qualities you look for in entrepreneurs you invest in?
Great question. And really, it reflects all the things we've just talked about. Are you a learner? Are you agile? Can you sell? Are you kind? Do you care about people? Are you willing to enable your employees? Do you want your employees to succeed as badly as you want to succeed? You know, those are the skill sets that an entrepreneur needs. The old baby boomer, mindset of squeeze every nickel, take advantage of people, convert people, convince people. Selling is convincing as opposed to helping. Those days are gone, long gone. Now entrepreneurs come on, and not only do I look for these qualities, but I also look for a social concept. Who are you helping with your business? What are you making better? Because consumers today, particularly the younger consumers we've been talking about, it's not just brand, but it's what does that brand represent? Do they care about the environment? Do they care about their fellow man? Do they care about the world? Because nobody wants to be associated, particularly young people, want to be associated with a brand that doesn't represent their values. And so to be successful in a business today, you have to reflect the values of your customers. And, for better or worse, companies want to sell to younger consumers because they're still in the process of developing their buying habits and their brand allegiances. And so, companies tend to gear towards younger consumers, and I think that's the right thing to do, and that's what I look for in Shark Tank.
I love that, Mark. In our final minute together, and firstly, thank you. This has been such an enlightening interview. And I love your radiant smile. I love the energy that you put forth. Final advice before we say goodbye to you for all 15,000 of us watching.
Oh my goodness. Love your life. There's always something you can find. Always. One of the things that I try to do and do with my kids, if there's a blue sky and I'm outside, I just, you got to take a moment to look and appreciate just the beauty of our life around us. If you're trying to find motivation, what I tell my kids and entrepreneurs is if you look at everything around you that's not organic, not trees, not bushes, but everything else. Look at what's your table, your chair, your couch, everything. That was somebody's idea. One day it didn't exist. The next day someone had an idea, and then they turned it into a business, and now you're sitting on their couch. You're looking at their table. You're looking at their picture. Ask yourself, all these amazing inventions came from somewhere. Why not you? Why can't you be the one that comes up with that next great idea? It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It just has to be something that you love, you're proud of, and you can show to the world. Why not you?
That's amazing, Mark. I love the way you think. I love the way you view the world. Sometime my team is going to reach out to you about producing an entrepreneurship program with you, because I think there's so much in your mind that we need to get out to the millions of people who are on Mindvalley. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it. Great questions. And thanks to all the winners.
So I hope you enjoyed that talk. Now I want you to know that listening to a talk like this is simply treading water. It's just the top of just how far you can go when you dive into Mindvalley. I want to ask you a question. If you had to look at these 5 areas of your life, how would you rate these areas? The first is relationships. Are your relationships truly freaking remarkable? That means you feel so deeply connected to the people around you. You're constantly in awe at the quality of your relationships. Or are you with people who are lowering your energy, who are making you less happy than you should be? Second, your body. Is your body serving you in the way it should? Now, this doesn't matter if you're 70 plus years old. All of us have the right to a body that is serving us, that has energy, that is pain-free, that's healthy, that's dynamic, that we are proud of. The third is your career, or if you're an entrepreneur, your business. How easy is it? How much in flow are you with your career and your business? Are you seeing an income rise of at least 10% year on year? That's the benchmark. That means 10% year on year for the same amount of work, you're getting wealthier. And are you able to get everything that you need done in 40 hours a week? No more, because you are hyper-productive, hyper-focused, able to access flow states. How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 5? Then we look at your mind. How frequently do you suffer from self-doubt, or are you just having incredible confidence? How fast do you read? How fast do you process knowledge? How powerful are your intellectual capabilities? You're not born with this. You can train this. And the final area is your spirit or your soul. Are you tapped into intuition? Have you learned how to apply energy healing to rejuvenate your body? Are you able to go into lucid dreams, tap into intuition, and truly fine-tune all the elements of spirit that are the essence of our soul? Now, if you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 in all 5 of these categories, most people are not at 5 out of 5 in each, because it seems like there's so much we have to do. I mean, with everything else going on in the world, how much time do we have to really nurture our relationships, to really take care of our body, to meditate for hours on day, to focus on growing our mind? Well, it turns out not that much at all. If you apply what we teach in Mindvalley, which is minimum dose, maximum results, you see that all 5 areas of your life rejuvenate, heal, recover, and move into a glorious 5 out of 5. Now, how do we do this? Well, it's through a concept called Mindvalley membership, and I want to invite you to check it out. It only takes 20 minutes a day. Yep, 20 minutes a day. Now, you may be thinking, 20 minutes a day is a lot. I'm already busy. Well, the way we've designed Mindvalley membership is that these 20 minutes a day come in no extra time. It could be the time you're on a treadmill, the time you're in commute. It could be you could be listening to the Mindvalley app while you're pushing a grocery cart. But what happens is, in no extra time, 20 minutes a day, you get a little bit better every day. But these things stack. It's a compounding effect. And at the end of 1 month, your life has changed in remarkable ways because of the behavioral change dynamics that we embed into all our programs. I invite you to check it out, because life is too short to just accept life the way it is. We need to embrace life. We need to fulfill our true potential. We need to be a 5 out of 5 in all the dimensions of being human. Because why not? Why would we settle for anything less than the best for our own life? So I invite you to check out Mindvalley membership. Go to mindvalley.com/membership. Try it out, explore it, and you'll notice that this just might be the single best decision you make in your life. One of the most consistent things we see when we poll our members as to how is it going, they say this was one of the single best decisions they ever made in their life. Mindvalley membership is $1.37 a day, and it gives you everything you need to transform into the best you. Hundreds of programs to transform every aspect of your life. Hundreds of meditations to tap into your spirit. Habit and behavioral change dynamics to make the transformation easy. Live classes where you can come and connect with other members, and a private social network so that you are connected to our members who are some of the most positive, amazing, loving, connected people in the world. So you never feel lonely again. Check it out. It's on mindvalley.com/membership.